The 13th century was a time when one of history's most fascinating and feared leaders, Genghis Khan, rose from humble beginnings to forge one of the largest empires the world has ever seen. From a boy facing abandonment and betrayal on the harsh Mongolian steppe to becoming the founder of the Mongol Empire, his life story is one of grit, ambition, and ruthless determination. Ever wondered how a single leader, starting with nothing, could conquer vast lands and leave a legacy that still impacts the world today? In this video, we'll dive deep into the life of Genghis Khan, exploring what drove him, the battles that defined him, and how he reshaped history forever. Genghis Khan wasn't born into power or wealth. In fact, his early life was marked by hardship. He was born as Temujin around 1162. In the Mongolian steppes, to the small and relatively obscure Borjigin clan. His father, Yesuge, was a chieftain, but life on the steppe was anything but secure. The Mongolian tribes were divided, always competing for resources and status, and alliances could change as quickly as the weather. Temujin's life took a tragic turn when his father was poisoned by rival Tatars when he was only 9 years old. After his father's death, Temujin's family was abandoned by their own tribe, left to survive alone in a brutal and unforgiving landscape. Imagine being a young boy, suddenly responsible for feeding and protecting your family in one of the world's most challenging environments. Temujin, his mother, and siblings had to rely on hunting, gathering, and sheer willpower to survive. The experience of isolation and betrayal would leave a mark on Temujin, teaching him the value of loyalty, resilience, and the importance of building a strong and reliable support network. These principles would eventually shape his approach to leadership and the military strategies that would make him so feared. Temujin's early years were a constant struggle, filled with danger and unexpected twists. For instance, at one point, he was captured by a rival tribe, the Taichiu, who saw him as a threat even at a young age. They shackled him and held him as a prisoner, but Temujin managed a daring escape. This experience fueled his resolve, strengthening his belief that he was destined for something greater. Around this time, Temujin began forming bonds with other influential figures, including the blood brother Jamuka, who would later play an essential, though complicated, role in his life. As a teenager, he also reunited with Borte, a woman he'd been promised to in marriage as a child. Borte wasn't just a wife to Temujin, she became his closest confidant and a key figure in his personal and political life. But as fate would have it, Borte was abducted by a rival tribe, the Merkits, shortly after their marriage. Determined to get her back, Temujin didn't hesitate. He rallied a small force, including Jamuka, and launched a daring rescue. The success of this mission gave Temujin both a newfound sense of confidence and the respect of his peers. It was one of the first instances where he proved his capability as a leader and a strategist. These early struggles taught Temujin that in a world as harsh as the Mongolian steppe, unity and loyalty were everything. He knew he couldn't survive or succeed alone, so he began building a network of allies, gradually uniting different tribes under his banner. But uniting the Mongolian tribes was easier said than done. For centuries, the tribes of the steppe had been in a near-constant state of conflict. Petty rivalries and blood feuds tore communities apart, and loyalty was often a fleeting thing based on short-term alliances. Temujin recognized that if he could bring these tribes together, they'd become an unstoppable force. What set him apart was his meritocratic approach to leadership. Unlike other tribal leaders who relied on noble bloodlines and family ties, Temujin promoted his men based on ability and loyalty. This was revolutionary at the time, as it allowed even those from lower social classes to rise through the ranks if they proved themselves. His followers quickly recognized that with Temujin, loyalty and skill meant more than birthright, which earned him the unwavering loyalty of those around him. His relationship with Jamuka, his blood brother, played a pivotal role during this period. Jamuka supported Temujin in his early efforts to unite the tribes, but the two soon clashed over ideology and leadership style. Jamukha believed in the traditional Mongolian aristocracy, where noble bloodlines determined rank and respect. Temujin, on the other hand, valued loyalty, unity, and ability over social status. This ideological difference eventually led to a split between the two, with Jamukha becoming one of Temujin's fiercest rivals. Through battles and alliances, Temujin defeated rival leaders, and by 1206 he had achieved what many had thought impossible. He united the Mongol tribes and was proclaimed Genghis Khan, which means universal ruler. This title wasn't just symbolic. It marked the beginning of a new era in which the Mongols would no longer be scattered tribes, but a unified force with a single purpose. Genghis Khan's success wasn't just about uniting the tribes, it was also about how he fought. His military tactics were revolutionary, blending traditional Mongol skills with new techniques that transformed the way battles were fought. One of Genghis Khan's greatest innovations was his use of mobility and speed. Mongol warriors were expert horsemen, capable of riding long distances quickly and attacking with precision. This allowed them to strike unexpectedly, overwhelming enemies before they could react. His armies moved with an unprecedented level of coordination and speed, covering as much as 100 miles in a day, which was unheard of in the medieval world. But mobility wasn't his only strength. Genghis Khan valued intelligence and often sent scouts to gather information about his enemy's terrain, weaknesses, and tactics. He also used psychological warfare, creating fear in his enemies through brutal displays, like sparing the lives of a few to spread stories of Mongol might. He was known to be merciless to those who resisted, but would show tolerance to those who surrendered peacefully, offering them protection and a place in his growing empire. His military tactics also involved complex strategies, such as the feigned retreat, where his forces would pretend to retreat, luring enemies into a vulnerable position, only to regroup and attack with devastating force. This tactic proved effective in numerous battles and became a hallmark of Mongol warfare. With the tribes unified and his armies trained, Genghis Khan turned his sights beyond Mongolia. His first major conquest was the powerful Western Xia dynasty in northern China. Through a combination of military prowess, psychological tactics, and brutal efficiency, he brought down the Western Xia, sending a clear message that the Mongols were a force to be reckoned with. From there, Genghis Khan moved on to the Jin dynasty, which controlled much of northern China. This was a more challenging opponent, but he adapted his strategies, even learning siege tactics to capture fortified cities. His conquests were swift and devastating, with entire cities sometimes razed to the ground to prevent future rebellion. But his ambitions didn't stop with China. Genghis Khan pushed westward, clashing with the Khwarezmian Empire, which spanned parts of present-day Iran, Turkmenistan, and Uzbekistan. The story of how this conflict began is fascinating. Genghis Khan initially sent a trade caravan to the Khwarezmian ruler, hoping to establish peaceful relations. But the caravan was attacked, and its members were killed. Outraged, Genghis Khan demanded justice, which was denied. In response, he launched a massive invasion, crushing the Khwarezmian Empire and leaving a trail of destruction. By the time of his death in 1227, Genghis Khan had created an empire that spanned from the Pacific to the Caspian Sea. He had forged the largest contiguous empire in history, one that would continue to expand under his descendants, reaching its peak under Kublai Khan. Genghis Khan's legacy is complex. On the one hand, he is remembered as a brutal conqueror whose campaigns left millions dead. On the other, he was a visionary leader who fostered trade, promoted religious tolerance, and implemented a code of laws known as the Yasa, which promoted discipline and loyalty within his empire. Under Genghis Khan's rule, the Silk Road was revitalized, connecting east and west, and allowing for the exchange of goods, technology, and ideas. He also championed meritocracy, allowing people of different ethnicities, backgrounds, and religions to rise within his empire. This approach laid the groundwork for a multicultural empire that, at its height, supported the free exchange of ideas and cultures. Some historians even argue that Genghis Khan's policies paved the way for the Renaissance by fostering connections that would eventually bring Eastern knowledge to the West. So there you have it, the story of Genghis Khan, a man who rose from poverty and betrayal to unite a fractured people and build one of the greatest empires in history. His life is a testament to resilience, vision, and adaptability, but it also raises questions. Can an empire built on bloodshed leave a lasting positive legacy? And what might the world look like today without the influence of the Mongol Empire? If you found this story of Genghis Khan fascinating, hit that like button, drop a comment with your thoughts, and make sure to subscribe for more deep dives into history's most compelling figures. Thanks for watching, and until next time.